Right, as you can see, the swing arm's off. I took the swing arm back off camera because I wanted to alter that bit, cut a little bit of the brace off, because I know for a fact I'm going to fucking keep catching that electrical bit and it'll just do my head in. So took it off and spliced a little piece off, and I took a picture of what I've took off. And then also cleaned up the bit that was left. But what I thought I'd do while it was off, now this was another measurement that I was going to do but just not yet, but now that I've got it off I'll make sure you can see that properly. Right, you know yourself, I took the measurements with the big set square on to verify that the centre line was the centre line up here and down there. Now another measurement I wanted to take was from this spindle, the pivot shaft, to the across the back of these, to make sure that it's the same. Now then, how can I sort of explain what can go wrong here? Imagine that you want it in the bike and you want it so it's like the same distance from this point here to there and here to there. If one of these is slightly off, you imagine you've got your wheels, your trike wheels there, your back trike wheels, and you've got your front wheel in the middle there, all pointing ahead. If there's a difference in these, it might, even if it's a millimetre difference, you set it all up, and I'm going to exaggerate it, but what happens is your axle will sit it'll sit at ever so slight angle. Now a millimetre difference here between these two is nothing. You think, oh, it's only a millimetre, but you draw a line through the length of your bike, that millimetre disappears off, so that yes, your trike wheels are there, but if you were to draw straight lines through, what you'd end up with is your trike wheels are offset to your front wheel. Same as a line in your swing arm on your, like on my electric glide for instance, I had to line the back wheel up so it was running straight. Well, what you would end up with if this wasn't right was an axle that was running out of true. So the way I check it is I just get my big 600mm rule, clamped the level across again like I did earlier, and I know that this level's straight. I only use Stabila levels, all my levels are Stabila, because of the fucking accuracy of them. That's it in my job as well, you know what I mean. So get it so that the rule sits flat against the level at that end. I'll just put a little bit of a weight on there just to hold it down. And then get a little engineer's square, sit it on the rule and push it up until it reaches the inside edge of the shaft, and then look down, and what I've got there, I don't know if you'll be able to see the measurements on here, but what I've got is 341, and it's exactly 341. So now swap the scale over to this side, make sure it's flush against the back edge there, against the level, put my weight on again, get the square on, and this is the same procedure. And what I've got is this one goes into half mils, so I'm just going to get a magnifier here, because I want to just make sure it's, so keep it square. You know, my fucking magnifier is fucking filthy. Give us a second, I'll just clean this. Probably knocked that out of square. Oh. Right, I'll just stick that one on there because I need to check that. If ever you drop a square, don't just think, oh, it's right. Get it checked. I'll just grab another one. Right, I'll just check this, make sure it hasn't been knocked out of square. Basically, just get yourself another square that you know's not been dropped. And that's absolutely bob on. Never take it for granted that these things stay square when they've been dropped. I have honestly dropped, I think it was an 8-inch square. It fell off the workpiece that I was working on, and when I picked it up I tried it on the piece I was on, which I'd actually just tacked up, and it looked out of square, and I thought, oh bollocks, thinking it was me that had tacked it wrong. And I was just about to cut the tacks off, and I thought, oh, hang on a minute, and I checked the square with another square, and it had actually, this part here had moved, so that was that square knackered. Right, that's better, I can look and see now. And that is exactly 341. So, fair play to DNA, because this is where the swing arm's from, DNA. The jig's obviously good, because that's, you saw yourself earlier when I measured it for the centre, it was right, and I've just measured it there, and it's equal, so that's good. And another thing I'll show you is when I ragged it all about to loosen it up when it was in the frame. If you remember me saying, once you've got it all set up and free and everything, it'll come in and out easier. So what I'll do is I'll knock you off, unclamp all this bit, set you up at the bike again, and I'll put this back in. I'm not going to go through all the thing of putting the spacers, and I'm just going to put it on with, what's gone there? A bit tight on there. Yeah, I'm just going to have my two sleeves in, and that'll do. But just so you can see that it now just goes in. So I'll be back in a sec. I'll have you set up in a different area. Right, back down at the bike. Get this lifted off. Right, through the belt. It's the right way up, obviously. Offer it in, and as you saw there, it basically just drops. Just pushes straight into place. So, just get in here and get this sleeve in. My finger's too big. Come on. Just also to keep it balanced. Right, try again. That side in. Because the spherical bearing moves about, it can just be a little bit awkward Oh. Right, and that's in both sides, but as you saw it slips into the frame. No problem, just put a little axle stand under here. But also now that's hit the bump stop, no sparks. And judging by my breath, it's starting to get very cold in here. So what I'll do it off camera. I'll get all the shaft and the spacers and everything back in, get it all torqued back up. In fact, if I drop that back down, I'll just lift you off here a second. You can see there where I've spliced it off. I don't know if I can get you in. What you can see in there. But now, as I say, I can't, not 100% myself because I can't see in this little screen properly. But that's hitting the bump stop there, and you can see that there is plenty of clearance up there to them electrical contactors. So yeah, so I'll knock it off again, get this swing arm mounted properly, and then we'll set to and start bolting these plates on and getting them all set up. So back soon. Right, it's a couple of days later, to be fair. I haven't done now for a day or two, but I don't know if you can see that on the screen. You probably will, because I can't see it properly on there. I've levelled the bike up and levelled the swing arm up, and basically I've just got it so that when I'm working now, so you can see these. Yeah, so when I'm working now, all the levels are on level, which is cool. So now what we're going to do, I'll put that over there a sec, is we'll fit these and we'll get these all levelled up to each other, so then at least when we put the axle on we know it's all square. So I'll just grab the nuts and bolts. I should have opened this all sooner really. Right, this thing consists of a pile of washers, some obviously bolts to go through there, but I just need to work out what we've actually got. There's a couple of nuts on here as well, which I know what they'll be for. Just stick that on there for a second. The way that you adjust your axle, same as when you adjust a back wheel, you've got your tensioners on each side. On these plates, I don't know if you can see from up there, but there's a notch in there. When the plate's on, this part of the plate, this bolt screws in, obviously comes right through. As you can see there, the bolt comes through and you'll be pushing it against the, well, I'm assuming you'll be pushing it against the block. No, you'll be pushing it against the axle body. So in a sense you're doing the same thing as when you're lining your back wheel up. that you've got a little bit of adjustment in your axle as well. When I was checking all my measurements to make sure everything was like square, this allows just that extra bit of adjustment, you know, if you are slightly out of square, but obviously it's to tension your belt as well. So I'll leave that one there. Just quickly, in fact, because I need to sort out what I've got here, there's washers, lock washers, you know, like normal washer there, a lock washer there, and then there's a pile of the, I'm assuming that's how it's all going together. So rather than you sitting watching me put washers onto bolts, I'll just knock you off a sec and just get these all set up and I'll be back. Right, sorted all these bolts out. You've got your four mounting bolts, 4 for each side. Then that adjuster screw that I was putting in, that had a washer and lock washer as well. So I took this one back out. So they're all sat on there at the minute, obviously. And what we'll do is I'll move some move some shit out of the way. And we'll start just loosely mounting these plates on. Now, I'm not going to be trying to do any lining up as yet, I'm just going to get the four bolts in. Which is pretty straightforward. Same on this side, get this one on. On final assembly, because remember this is all just mock-up to start with, but on final assembly, when I put these bolts in, I'll be putting Loctite on them as well. Same on the swing arm pivot bolt nut, I'll be putting Loctite on that as well. Right, if I just loosen these up so I've got some slack. So with this, you've actually got that plate on the swing arm slotted. So you've got side to side movement. And what I'll probably try and do is just make sure that that cutout, there's plenty of room on that bit there for the adjuster bolt to go in. But what I'll do is I'll try and line it up on the inside edge of the plate on the swing arm. So if I do that on both sides, it's quite a tightish fit. There isn't that much movement like that way, so it shouldn't be so bad for getting it sort of squared up. But still, there is some movement up and down. What I'll do is I'll nip these up so that it's not as easy to move just by hand, and I might have to tap it with my nylon hammer to get it to go where I want it to. It's just so that I can adjust it, give it a tap and adjust it, and it stays where you adjust it to. Because obviously I want to get it all level. Right, that's the adjuster on. And And I think what I'll do is I'll lift that level over onto there, put that one on there, make sure everything stays square sort of thing. Now that's not actually too bad, just needs to come up a touch. In fact, that's looking good. That booking forms, I'll just take it off here a sec. There's the level bubble, and the level bubble. It's actually very level across the way. So get the level and put it up. Might alter things a bit. That's actually not a million miles out. Which way do you want to go? Out at the bottom, in at the top. Looks like this bit might actually be a lot easier than what I was expecting it to be. Put the light on the job. Right, I'm going to grab a spanner. These bolts are spanner size is 5/8, so I'm just going to put a little bit of tension, just so it sort of holds it in place. So tap, make sure we're going the right way with it. So one wants to go in top. And that one is very close anyways. Now they're level up and down, so I'm just going to quickly nip a couple of the bolts up and then double check that it's all still. If this stays how it is now, that part was actually a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be. You know, because you've got clearances for nuts and bolts for them going through holes, etc., which obviously in turn gives you slight movement in things. Still level on there. I'll just rattle that one in, and then I'll double check the level up and down, because if it stays, then that's pretty much them plates in place. blocky view a sec. Now I could have got a ratchet for that, but that would have been too easy. Right, so that's still level. Obviously that's still level. And check this one again. Weird that, in fact I've taken that off for a second. I was just going to say the level's blocking the light into the other level. That's absolutely bob on. And so is that one. So, that, as I say, was a lot easier than I was expecting it to be. So I'll just nip the other two up. Give these original ones a nip. Now I'm not putting full pressure on these bolts at the minute. I mean, don't get us wrong, they're tight, but they're not like fully tight. But they're set at such a way that this can't move. I will check the level again in a sec. Right, so they're secure. Let's get all my levels back in for us. So a chart here. Right, so it's level there. Level there, which is good. Level there. Level there. So, lift all these off. Right, and as I've just said, that, putting them on and getting them so they were level to the actual swing arm was a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be. And it went a lot quicker than I thought it would. So I think the next step I need to be looking at getting this axle out of its transport case thing, whatever you want to call it, and getting it fitted onto here. Right, I'll knock you off for now. We'll get this axle out and have a look at starting to put it in place. Right, back soon. Right, I've lifted the axle out of its frame, and one thing you might notice is calipers are on the bottom. The pulley is in the right position to go in here, and I think what it is, I think DNA's axles are all the same for every trike. You know, whether it be a Sportster or whether it be a fucking Electroglide. I think they use the same axle. And I think because the majority of conversions as Sportsters, these are set in the position for a Sportster, because on a Sportster the belt's on the opposite side, so you've got like right hand side drive on the Sportster. Now to put the calipers back to the top, it's just a case of undoing the plate that the caliper bolts to and then move it round and bolt it back in, because the holes are equidistant all the way around, so you can move it anywhere around the radius that you want. Also, to fit this properly, I need to split the axle, and it splits in the middle here, so obviously you can get your belt, but I'm not going to do that at the minute. I'm just going to get it onto these, sort of bolted on tightish, and then I'll unbolt the plates and take the axle back off, because when I come to put it back together with the belt on, I won't be able to do it here and lift it onto them. I'll be able to lift it up into it, if you know what I mean. Also, I don't know if you can see these are the plates that it was bolted into the frame with, and that's what these clamp to. Sorry, that's what these plates clamp onto these. See how slack they are, and they're easy moved and spinned. So it's the same on both sides, they're both nice and slack and loose. And they're just held together with four Allen heads that go inside. Well, actually they're going that way. And then bolt through, which then tightens that up. So I'll just knock it off a sec, I'll be back in a minute.